Welcome to Fantasy Football Live. I'm your host, Jason Fitz. For the next 90 minutes, we are going to get you all the way up to kickoff. I'm sitting with Matt Harmon, Justin Boone, and we're welcoming in Joel Smith hanging out with us. Joel coming in, filling in for Chris. How we feeling? Like, boys, that Joel, you got a lot of pressure, all right? Chris is usually a little bit, not only brilliant, but also a little angry. He's got that Bengals edge to him in the morning because, his team's going to fail him. Are you ready to fill those shoes, my friend?
I feel the pressure, but I'm ready. Joe Burrow came in that Sunday Night Football game, said sorry in advance. So in Chris's honor, I'll say that.
That's amazing. Sorry in advance is how we describe most of Harmon's picks. I kid, Harmon. I kid. I love you, even with the mustache. How we doing, buddy? How we feeling today?
I tolerate you, Fitz, and I'm going to try to tolerate you again for another 90-minute period here, and hopefully give the people some good picks, some good fun. And yes, apologies, my grooming is terrible today. I do need a haircut. I'm overdue for some full redo here, but hopefully what's going on in the face is not going to be as bad as the analysis today, but fingers crossed on that.
I only mock your mustache because I simply can't grow one. Like, I don't want to brag or anything, but I haven't shaved in like 4 days, and this is what I have. Justin Boone, you, sir, not only are the best looking of all of us, but you continue to kill all of us in the picks competition because you're maybe the smartest. So how we feeling, Boone? Now I've buttered you up this morning. How we feeling?
I'm not feeling as good about that picks competition. You guys are starting to catch up, especially you, Fitz. I got to get my butt in gear here and start to figure some things out and get some wins. I feel like it's been a few weeks since I got one, but busy morning, tons of updates to the rankings. And I will say I do enjoy like the morning Europe games, but this is the last one of the year. And I will be happy to see it go because it makes the morning crunch a little tougher to get everything done in time for that game. So it's nice that this is the last one. And I mean, what a game they've given us for the final one here.
I mean, is it? Let's pull that up. As you mentioned, we've got action going on. Congratulations on the West Coast. If you forgot, you're already a host. We've got a 13-6 juggernaut of a matchup here. Just a reminder that this is the same Dolphins team that looked like world beaters last week. I can't figure out the NFL this year. It is just a wild, wild year. Mariota, obviously, and for Jaden Daniels in this one, too. So let's just say this isn't one of those quarterback matchups that they would put up on the billboards. But the field does look beautiful. We'll keep you updated on the fantasy implications of this game as they go. For the next 90 minutes, we will help you get your lineup set. You can get involved on social media. Just use the hashtag AskFFL on Twitter, X. That's where you can send in your last-minute roster questions. Drop a comment in the YouTube chat. We're looking at them. We're scouring what you guys need to know. 90 from kickoff, so let's get to what everybody's worried about, actives and inactives. We'll start with some of the early game actives, inactives. Calvin Ridley, Drake London, both active. Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, inactive. We'll get back to that in just a second. I want to make sure we update everybody on the later games first. The later games, Devontae Adams expected to play. J.K. Dobbins, as many of us have heard, moved to injured reserve, lost what looks like for the duration of the regular season. We'll see from there. Sam Laporta also on IR. Let's go back, Matt Harmon, to Keon Coleman. It should be stressed, is inactive by a coach's decision. He is not healthy. He is healthy, I should say. He's just not playing. So, Harmon, what should we make of it?
Yeah, unfortunately, this pick just really hasn't worked out for the Buffalo Bills. He's a guy who isn't a consistent separator as that X receiver. It was an issue, I think, for him as a prospect coming into the league, and I don't think the Bills have done a good job identifying exactly what he does well. So it's been a weird fit as a player. He just has not really caught on there. He's not a consistent player at that spot. And then on top of that, Adam Schefter reported from ESPN that he missed a team meeting on Friday. And this has been a consistent issue for Coleman over the course of his career. He's missed meetings. He's kind of been not been happy with his effort in certain areas. So right now, Coleman's a guy that they just can't count on. So they're turning to different bodies at that wide receiver position. Josh Palmer's back healthy. He was a free agent signing for them. Gabe Davis is an old friend who I think they actually drafted Keon Coleman to replace Gabe Davis, and now Gabe Davis is going to step in to replace Keon Coleman. So that kind of lets you know the state of the state in the Buffalo Bills wide receiver room. It's an area that's really in flux on this roster right now. And frankly, despite Brandon Beane, giving it to some radio hosts this offseason about, no, guys, like, trust me, this wide receiver room you guys should not be complaining about that. And I'm being a lot nicer than Brandon Beane was in that interview, by the way. This is not something that's working out for the Bills, and I think it's become a huge problem for their offense. And there's certainly, beyond Khalil Shakir as a wide receiver 3 flex type, no fantasy value in this room until we see something different.
As the resident king of Flutie Flakes and the person wearing the Bills hat as we speak, Boone, anything you'd like to add to the thoughts on Keon Coleman?
I was going to say thank you for throwing that to Harmon so I didn't have to chime in on it because, no, there's not too much that I want to say. Harmon and I talked about the Bills pass-catching core on the Thursday episode of the Fantasy Forecast, and I brought it up because my question was, do they have the worst group of pass catchers in the league? And we went through some of the options, like the Raiders, but I was counting Brock Bowers in there. I was also counting all the injured wideouts out there. So Malik Neighbors on the Giants, those types of guys. We were still adding those to their teams. And if you look at it, I mean, it's like the Titans, the Browns, the Bills are right in there. And that is just so embarrassing for a team that is supposed to be inside of their Super Bowl window. But I could go off on this for a while. I'm going to step back here. We got to keep going with the show.
It's always a fine line between letting somebody vent and then just wanting to give them a hug. I wish I could reach through right now and hug you. Although your team still wins football games, unlike mine. Let's get to what to watch in Week 11. Storylines we've got our eyes on. We'll stick with Boone for a second. Boone, what do you got your eyes on this week?
I'm pretty excited about the 49ers getting healthy, to be honest. We've waited for this for a while. Brock Purdy was practicing in a limited fashion for several weeks, and then at the end of every week, he kept getting ruled out. Well, this time, he's back. He's starting. We're also getting Ricky Pearsall back this week. And I think people often forget just how good this 49ers attack can be. They have a winning record despite the fact that they've missed those two guys. They've missed George Kittle for a huge chunk of the season, Juwan Jennings, a bunch of guys on defense, some injuries on the offensive line. They have just been so banged up. They haven't really been able to take advantage of this super easy schedule that they have this year. But now they're getting these guys back. And from a fantasy perspective, Brock Purdy, let's not forget, the last 2 seasons on a per-game basis, he's been a QB1 for fantasy, a top 12 guy. I have him right back in that range in my rankings this week. And then you look at Pearsall, like earlier this season, before he got hurt, 4 for 108, 4 for 56, 8 for 117. He was really playing well, and that's on top of how he finished last season, 8 for 141 and a touchdown, 6 for 69 and a touchdown. I think he has the chops to be their number 1 guy. I don't think we're going to get much from Brandon Ayuk, so if you're waiting for him to come back for fantasy, I think he's going to end up staying in your IR spot. So let's look at this offense this week. Let's see what they could potentially be with these 2 guys out there, and I think you want to put both of them in your lineup right away.
I love that call by you. I'll give you something to keep an eye on this week, and it's how high is the ceiling for Rico Dowdle? Good Lord, we're talking about a Falcons team that can't stop anybody running the football. The Falcons have, by far, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And, oh, by the way, the Falcons were just in Europe. They were just overseas trying to figure all this out. So now their bodies come back. They got to regulate their clocks, and they got to take on a Panthers team that has one way to do anything, and that's Rico. In Rico, I trust. The Reek Freak is going to go off in this game. He's become just a bona fide star running back. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes the seasons give us surprise stories. Rico has been a surprise story for where they are right now. He is going to absolutely feast against a Falcons team that just isn't ready, willing, or capable to stop the run, and their body clocks aren't going to help them any in this matchup. I think Rico could absolutely, for somebody that's had massive days, he could have his biggest game of the season today. Joel, what do you got your eyes on as a Week 11 storyline?
I'm looking at RJ Harvey, one of the big stories of the week. We saw J.K. Dobbins now going to IR. So RJ Harvey, that big thing in the Denver backfield, the situation is great. It's just the volume has been pretty split. But based on that situation, if you give him 65% of those RB touches, then that volume would rank inside the top 10 for running backs in terms of the expected fantasy points per game. So the volume can be there. I'm honestly not too worried about him being the RB1 of this offense. It's just how much do these other passing game running backs eat into his work? And then we got the matchup today. So he's got Kansas City. They are 5th best against that rushing production this season. But RJ Harvey still has just been so efficient this year. He's number 1 in fantasy points per touch, right above Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, Bijan, Achane, like all those guys that are top in the NFL. And even if we just isolate it to the carries, because he has gotten a lot of production in the receiving, still RB2 in terms of fantasy points per carry, right there with J.K. Dobbins.
It's going to be wild to watch what he can do in this offense this week. Matt Harmon, what do you got your eyes on?
I don't know why I keep subjecting myself to this, but my eyes are on the Houston Texans offense and whether or not their rookies are going to play more. I really must hate myself, but 3 rookies in this offense I've got my eye on here. DeMeco Ryans, the head coach of the team, said on an interview this week that, hey, no more rookies. And that means that these guys are not rookies anymore. He's just viewing them as players in the offense. That's Woody Marks, Jaden Higgins, and Jalen Knoll. And, man, yeah, he's the head coach of the football team. Let's hope he actually is a man of his word here because, my God, this team needs the extra juice from those 3 players here. And this is a good matchup, right? Against this Titans defense that you can definitely run on. From a gap scheme perspective, you can certainly get explosive plays on. And we saw some key changes on first down for the Texans last week from a play calling perspective. 20% explosive play rate on first down. That was the best of the season. 60% success rate. That was the best. And it was only the second game all season they've been above a 56% pass rate on first down. I have been very critical of what Nick Caley has done this year as the offensive play caller of this team. But if they lean into that pass game on first down with some of these explosive players, obviously Nico Collins being the alpha of the room, but getting more Jalen Knoll, who's just way overdue for more snaps, getting a little bit more of Jaden Higgins in the right situations, I think that opens up the run game for Woody Marks, who way outsnapped Nick Chubb last week. So overall, I think I want to hold some optimism out for this team in the second half of the season from an offensive perspective, but it has to start with seeing more of these rookies. So that is certainly something, regrettably, I have my eye on again this week.
We will keep you guys updated on what's happening in Madrid, but I do want to update everybody. Mariota has gone into the blue tent. He's come out of the blue tent, so we'll find out what that means for Washington's offense moving forward. Boone is our resident rankings expert. You know this. He's got to get his final tweaks in before kickoff, so he's going to come back in a little bit. We got to let him go figure out who's moving up, who's moving down, which we will tell you about in just a few minutes. So let's get to some last-minute pickups. There are actually valuable players out there right now available that you can get under 50% rostered, can be added today. Matt Harmon, when I say last minute pickup, you say?
Yeah, let me talk about another offense that has frustrated me over the course of the season. Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Michael Wilson is going to step in as the number 1 wideout on the team with Marvin Harrison Jr. getting a surgery on his appendix. He's getting that taken out. He's going to miss this week. He might miss more weeks, which, of course, nothing good can happen to Marvin Harrison, right as he's kind of got a quarterback who fits in a little bit more with his game, and Jacoby Brissett from that under center perspective. He's going to miss this really good matchup with the 49ers defense that is just so banged up across the board. They've had to resort to blitzing a lot, and Jacoby Brissett is actually pretty good against the blitz. 55% success rate according to Next Gen Stats when he faces the blitz. That's a really good number among quarterbacks. And Michael Wilson's a guy who fits well in terms of those in-breaking routes. I know he's not been a productive player to start his career. I think he is kind of also in this weird mismatch sort of situation with the type of receiver he is versus the offense and what they want to do with Kyler Murray versus what they do with Jacoby Brissett. So if you need a spot start at wide receiver this week, I think Michael Wilson's a guy that you can put into the top 35 among wide receivers. Not been a consistently productive player, but I do think he's going to step up this week with no Marvin Harrison.
Do you believe at some point, Harmon, that the difficulties we've seen in production at the wide receiver position are basically Kyler Murray's fault? Do you trust this offense more now with Jacoby?
Yeah, I do. And look, it's not gonna be great over the rest of the season when they face these defenses like Seattle. We saw Seattle just absolutely take them to pieces because the reality is this starts up front. The problems in pass protection have been severe for Arizona this year, and Jacoby, he can get the ball out, but when there's just straight like a one-on-one pressure loss, as we've seen from the right tackle position, he's just a sitting duck back there. He can't create. But when you can get a team like San Francisco that doesn't have a pass rush there like we saw last week in Seattle, he can get the ball out on some of the concepts that Kyler Murray just doesn't really like to run. So I think this is one of those situations where it was an arranged marriage. Murray was a guy that was picked by the last coaching staff, by the last front office. He was paid and extended by those guys. So Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and this coaching staff tried to make it work, and I just think he doesn't fit the offense. The offense doesn't fit him, so they're probably best at the end of the year to go their separate ways.
All right, Joel, give me a last-minute pickup you've got your eyes on. What's going on out there for you?
I do like Michael Wilson. I'll go a different receiver as a flyer. Calvin Austin in Pittsburgh. When we're looking at this game, they've played before, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in week 7. And in that game, Cincinnati allowed 80 receiving fantasy points in PPR leagues. two non-DK Metcalf receivers, 80 points. And Calvin Austin didn't play that game. So last week he had his season high in targets, had 7. And we're going to get DJ Turner, the outside corner for Cincinnati, following DK Metcalf snap to snap again. So he only had 4 targets these last time these guys played. So Pat Freiermuth, definitely fine. A couple of those others, pass catchers, Jaylen Warren out of the backfield. But I like Calvin Austin out of the slot here. I think he can have a good matchup.
I love that call by you, and we forget how many points there were in that matchup. Like, I know it was the matchup of the Unks, but, like, the Unks played. Like, there are a lot of yards, a lot of points in that game. So, all right, let's check the chat. Let's see if we can help some people along the way that are asking questions in the chat. And the first one comes from Coastal Elite. Coastal Elite, says Michael Wilson with no Marvin Harrison Jr. versus San Francisco, or Tez Johnson at Buffalo. Wilson has a better matchup, projected to score more, but Tez is ranked higher except by Harmon. Is he a genius or a fool? All right, so since they're asking directly if Harmon's a genius or the fool, Joel, I got to get you. Let's pin it down. Harmon, genius or fool? So, Joel, what do you think?
I'll go Wilson. I'll back Harmon. I maybe have Tez higher. I can change that after the show. But Tez, it's a tough defense against Buffalo in terms of that passing attack. Wilson at wide receiver 1. I like him in this spot.
Oh, that's great. Look, Harmon, I think he's just taking it back because he's a good teammate. We'll let Harmon answer the next one that comes from Joshua Hidalgo 2009, who says, do I pick up Gabe Davis or Josh Palmer? You just mentioned Gabe Davis, so what do you think of this, Harmon?
Yeah, I'm going to pick up Josh Palmer here. Gabe Davis, I think Bills fans that are longing for, hey, let's get Gabe Davis back in the mix are forgetting how bad Gabe Davis, the experience was in Jacksonville. He's also coming off a serious injury, too. That's something that doesn't get discussed enough in the whole Gabe Davis discussion here. But with Josh Palmer, I think he's a solid player. I don't think he's special. I kind of balk at some of the, well, what a great separator this guy is. I don't personally see that, but I do think he's a quality NFL receiver who can be on the field. So right now, he's probably their best option outside. So I would pick up Josh Palmer over Gabe Davis.
All right, Joel, let's get a little bit of fun in here with some super flex options coming in the next question. Raja knows says, super flex, Purdy or Brissett in the same game? What do you think?
I would go Purdy there. Brissett, not a bad option, but Purdy, coming off the injury, the rushing production, I don't expect too much. But still, the start of the season at 19 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points, basically all of that through the air. So I would still go Brock Purdy.
All right, and then the next one comes in. The Cunningham 7 says, tight end has been the bane of my existence this year. Who do I start? Otten, Johnson, Pitts, Hawkinson, or Andrews? It's a bunch of options for you, Harmon. What do you think?
A lot of options there. I think the safest spot is, well, and this is weird to say with Mark Andrews, I think he's probably the safest just because, you know, he's going to be on the field. He's going to play a ton. He's going to get the touchdown opportunities if they get close inside the red zone. But it is still a tough Browns defense that they're going against here, and that might be a little bit chasey. So I actually kind of think Theo Johnson is a pretty good play this week. He's a full-time player. He's on the field a ton, and he's going to likely get that Jameis bump, you know. And it's also a game where there's going to be some wind involved there. The like check down passes, shorter, and which is famous last words with Jameis Winston. I think he's going to do the safe thing here. But maybe the safer, shorter options might be a little bit better than pushing it downfield to these non-Darius Slayton wide receivers who's not going to play in this game. So if you're feeling frisky, I would actually go with Theo Johnson there.
I mean, how can you not feel frisky when you know we're going to watch Jameis today? It's just going to be a wild world. We're watching Jameis today. All right, we're also watching the Wild Wild West. Coming up, we've got a huge matchup in Southern California. We'll break it down for you. It's one of the games of the century of the week. We got Rams, Seahawks on the other side. We'll tell you about it. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. We're getting caught up on everything you need to know all the way up to kickoff. He's Matt Harmon. He's Joel Smith. I'm Jason Fitz. We've got big action on the West Coast, but before we get to any of that, want to make sure that we catch you up on what's happening internationally right now. The last international game of the season, we have a touchdown. Ollie Gordon gets it in from about a yard out. Of course, that was one play after Devon Achane had like a 15-yard catch that took it to the 1-yard line. So perfect for everybody that's playing Devon Achane out there. But Ollie Gordon gets that touchdown. We've got a tie game right now, 13-13. We will keep you updated on it. Now, as exciting as this game is to watch because we love early morning football, let's acquiesce that the game of the century of the week, as we like to call it on Yahoo Sports Daily, is Seahawks-Rams. Everybody's blowing up about Seahawks-Rams. This game is going to be epic. The Rams favored by 3. The over-under on this one, 48.5 for two teams that are 7-2 and are both making a case to be the cream of the crop in the NFC. So let's break it down. What do you got your eyes on for this in this one, Matt?
Yeah, if you have not paid attention to what's been going on in the Rams offense lately, and frankly, what the Seahawks have been doing all year, what all of the football nerds are talking about this week is the use of 13 personnel by the Rams offense of late. And I think this matters for two fantasy players in particular. So let's just break this down here to start. This is what the Rams have done in terms of their 13 personnel usage. And 13 personnel, if you're not familiar, 1 back, 3 tight ends. So 3 tight ends are on the field. That means only 1 wide receiver is on the field. Over the last few games here, it's really jumped up. 15.7% in week 6, 38.7% in week 7, and then over 40% in each of their last 2 games. And what this does is it brings base defense onto the field. So a lot of these bigger bodies, slower linebackers are having to cover the tight ends here. And one rookie tight end actually by the Los Angeles Rams, Terrence Ferguson, their second-round pick this past year, he's been such a difference maker, not from a fantasy perspective. He's not putting up the production, but because he's so fast, he can actually stretch that field out, which really helps create some of these mismatches, which is why Matthew Stafford, and part of the reason why Stafford has been such a dynamic fantasy quarterback. He's one of the rare guys that you can start every single week, even though he doesn't have that mobility aspect to him. He's throwing so many of these touchdowns. Some out of these personnel looks. Over the last 2 games, Devontae Adams has 2 touchdowns out of 13 personnel. But one thing to keep an eye on is Puka Nakua's usage here. He has run 0 routes from 13 personnel over the last 2 weeks. And if that continues to hold and their use of 13 personnel continues to hold, that's going to shave off a little bit of that legendary upside that we saw from Puka Nacua. I'm not raising, the alarm bell here or panic or anything like that. He's still a wide receiver 1, even though he's not super involved in this personnel package. And my last point here is I actually wonder if the Rams pivot away from that this week, because Seattle is one of these teams that will match you in nickel no matter what, because they have Nick Emanwari, who is a safety nickel hybrid who can run with slot receivers and come and hit down in the box in the run game. So something to really watch in this matchup, because it doesn't increase the efficiency of the overall passing offense, but there is some downstream effect for these wide receivers. But I know Sean McVay can adjust with anybody, so I actually might expect him to spread the field a little bit more against a secondary that will not match you personnel wise over there in Seattle.
So it's funny to me, Harmon, because our what to watch in this game is almost the exact same thing, but it's from 2 different perspectives, because I'm obsessed with the Seahawks defense's ability to be variable, right? Like, we talk all the time about how offenses can really trick you when they from one formation can do a lot of different things. That's what this Seahawks defense is wildly capable of doing. To your point, because their safeties and their corners fly to the ball so quickly, so aggressively, tackle so well, they're comfortable playing close to the line of scrimmage, and they're comfortable playing back. They don't have to sort of veer to what you do. They can simply put what they think is their best group of varied personnel on the field, which is a little what we should have expected. Go back to what Ravens players were telling you about Mike McDonald's defense when he was the defensive coordinator for Baltimore. One thing they stressed is it took a couple of years for them to really get comfortable with the system. And once they were comfortable in it, they felt like they were gods. They were untouchable in it. We're seeing the same transformation happen right now for Seattle. So Harmon's talking about 13 personnel, which I think is really important. I keep looking at Seattle and saying, well, they're one of the few teams that I think can handle 13 personnel, which means I don't know who I really trust in this Rams offense. So to me, part of the reason, and this is the great debate, I don't know right now which one of these 2 teams is better. We're going to learn today. but I really like this Seattle defense matching up against this Rams offense. It is truly the chess match that is going to make all of this matter, and this feels to me like it's going to be a long, grind out, patient game where Stafford is just, this feels like the sort of game where both offenses are just going to live to see another down, live to see another drive, and they're going to wait to see which dam breaks. So Harmon and I seeing the same thing just from two different perspectives is interesting. Joel, what do you got your eyes on in this matchup?
Yeah, we'll stick with the LA offense. Going Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, that split, like over the last month, Corum's been getting consistent work, 40% of those running back carries. And because the Rams don't throw to the receiver or don't throw the running backs too much, Matt talked about Puka's not playing in 13 personnel. Kyron, 0 targets and 13 personnel this year as well. So that receiving, even worse for him. A lot of it is just being dependent on the touchdowns. So when Corum's taking 40% and you're going against the Seattle defense, who has a really good run defense, they've only allowed 2 goal line touchdowns in the year. And then that last factor of Davante Adams being healthy, because what we've seen this year is when they get down inside that 5, Stafford's had a lot more passing touchdowns this year. A lot of that is because of Davante Adams. Kyron Williams got 50% of those inside the 5 touches last year. That's shot down to 32%. That was like a top 3 rate in the NFL to now like a low RB2. So it is tough when you're playing a Seattle defense like you talked about, like has been playing great, doing even better. So Kyron, more touchdown dependent today, I would say.
Yeah, this matchup is going to be wild. We're going to learn a lot about the NFC. I can't wait for it. All right, deadline day is almost here. So let's get to it, gentlemen. The fantasy trade deadline is next Saturday. We're going to take a look at some players that the guys think you might want to trade for or away from before the deadline hits. Joel, give me the first person that's on your mind when I say trade deadline deals that should be made.
We'll go with a win now mode for the fantasy playoffs. If you are on the fringe, getting that 6th seed or trying to get to the 4th seed, I would say Derrick Henry based on his schedule. He's got Cleveland today, which is a little bit tougher, but then he gets the Jets next week with no Quinnen Williams. Pretty good matchup, I would say. Gets the Bengals after that, Pittsburgh, and then the Bengals again in the first round of that fantasy playoff. So I think he has a great stretch to get you there. He's been efficient, really good offense. The fantasy points haven't fully caught up, but I think it does over these next 4 games with the schedule that he has. And then maybe after that, it's not the greatest last 2 games. He got to the Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. So a little bit tougher, but if you just need to make the playoffs, I love this stretch for Henry.
All right, Matt, somebody that's out there that you think they could trade for?
Yeah, I think people should consider trading for Saints wide receiver Chris Olave. And I know that Chris Olave is coming off a good game prior to the bye, but he is a guy that I'm telling you, the sentiment is still not great around him. People are very skeptical of him as a player. And I really think he's very, very good, even before this season, but he's having a really nice season this year. And if you just look at him, he was such an obvious kind of positive regression candidate. Weeks 1 to 5, he was 40th in yards per game, despite being 2nd in the NFL in targets. He had just 1 touchdown. Over the last 5 weeks, we're starting to see some of that regression come his way. He's still getting a ton of volume, but he ranks 7th in yards per game and has scored 3 times. I think Olave was earning that volume. I think he's a really underrated star level wide receiver, and the Saints offense is doing a good job deploying him this year. And I'm curious to see if his connection with Tyler Shuck can continue, because I'll admit I was skeptical about Shuck coming in there, but he's been letting it rip downfield to Olave a little bit more than Spencer Rattler has. Olave had a season-high 141 air yards last week against the Carolina Panthers. So he's on bye this week, which might create a tiny, tiny little bit of a trade window before the deadline.
Yeah, Tyler Shuck is going to be one of the most interesting stories of the back half of the NFL season because it impacts the Saints and next year's draft both. Joel, what do you got for somebody that maybe teams should be looking to trade away before the deadline?
Yeah, that same mindset. If you need to win now, a guy that might not help you as much as he has from the past couple of months is Michael Pittman. He had that bad game last week, but now he's on bye. Then he gets Kansas City and then Houston after that. So these next 3 games just make it really hard to get a few wins if you're trying to make the fantasy playoffs. After that point, he plays Jacksonville a couple times. The schedule is more so average. The Seahawks, 49ers are more middle of the road against receivers. So it's not bad, but these next 3 games, if you're counting that bye week this week, it does make it pretty tough.
Oh, man, that is Harmon, we feel okay. Like, we allowed to try and trade Pittman? Harmon's been the Pittman fan club president for the last, like, if there was a streak team for, like, Pittman back in the day with this face on the shirt, like Harmon's run, we okay with this, Harmon?
No, I think Joel is right on this one to try to capitalize on this because, I mean, over the last 5 weeks, I did a piece for the site this past week. And remember, folks, we are reading again in 2025, and hopefully we're going to keep reading in 2026 as well. In the last 5 weeks, Josh Downs and Alec Pierce especially have really trended up in that pass-catching core. So I just think it's going to be a little bit more spread out than concentrated around one guy. So I like Joel's analysis there, like try to capitalize on that and get something for Pittman when I think it's going to be a little bit more spread out than the current rest of season rankings sort of suggest in this offense.
I want to get y'all's thoughts. Kyle Roberts asked us in the chat, a trade deadline question. Would you trade Hampton and Pearsall for Javonte Williams, desperate for running back help? Joel, what do you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I love Hampton. His injury has making me so heartbroken this year. But in terms of Javonte Williams, like, you're getting like that low-end RB1, pretty confident with him and this offense in general. And I still think there's lots of up in the air for Hampton right now with the injury. He still has his bye. Does he come back and get the full RB1 volume that he was getting in those last 2 games with Vidal playing so well? I feel like there's more up in the air, him coming off of the injury, where Javonte Williams, it's more set in stone. You kind of know what you're getting.
All right, well, we'll keep the questions coming. We're going to let the guys grab a water. They get a Gatorade here. They get to refresh in between drives. This is where we bring Boone back in. We got to figure out what rankings have been broken. There's movement all over the place. Boone, what do you got for me? What are we breaking here?
All right, we got 3 guys that I want to talk about, and we could really expand it to more here based on what's going on with some of these teams. But let's start Wan'Dale Robinson. He's up to wide receiver 21. We know what's going on with the Giants. So many injuries. It started with Malik Neighbors, Jackson Dart's out at quarterback. Darius Slayton now is hurt. Who are they going to throw to? And who is Jameis Winston going to throw to? We know he wants to chuck the ball around. Who's it going to go to? It has to go to Robinson. And there's some weather concerns in this game, but we also know that Robinson can get peppered in the short game. He can do something with it. So I really like him as a low-end wide receiver 2 this week. I think he's going to get a ton of volume, his usual PPR scam, as Harmon always likes to say. And if we stick with that team for a second, Tez Johnson, who I think you guys brought up when I was in the rankings cave there, I also agree. I think he's a top 10 play at tight end this week for pretty much the exact same reason. Somebody's got to catch all these Jameis passes. I think those 2 guys are going to do it. Second name, Khalil Shakir, going back to the Keon Coleman story, going back to all the changes here with the Bills receiving core. We have Josh Palmer coming back. We have Gabe Davis now back in part of the team. We have Mecole Hardman there. Who's going to get the ball? Well, one guy we know gets a lot of volume and can produce in this offense is Khalil Shakir. So I want to go with the guy that I trust, that Josh Allen trusts. Early in the week, there were some injury considerations there. He's good to go. He's playing. He's the receiver on this team that you want in your lineup, especially with Dalton Kincaid out at tight end. So Khalil Shakir, a very solid play right on that borderline low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 range. And then the last guy here, we got to have somebody going down. It's Quinshawn Judkins down to RB23. And there's a few things here, but the main one is he's not that involved in the pass game. And they're going up against the Ravens. The Ravens defense early in the season, bunch of injuries. They were getting crushed. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. They're a little bit of a tougher matchup again here. And we know that when the Browns fall behind, they start to get Dylan Sampson involved, maybe even Jerome Ford involved. So if that happens, which I think it probably will in this game, that makes it tough for Quinshawn Judkins to get there. And it kind of just renders him more of that low-end RB2, high-end RB3, but more of like a touchdown or bust guy. So we got to bump him down this week. Even though I love the talent, I think he's going to have a great career. And I think he's going to have a great rest of the season because they have some matchups that they'll be able to stay close, that they'll be able to feed him the ball. I just don't know that this is the game where we should expect a ceiling performance from him.
That is solid work by you, Boone. Let's bring the boys back together. We're going to huddle up, and it's time to run some hurry-up offense. You guys got a bunch of questions in. We'll put 25 seconds on the clock, and we will see how many questions we can get to. HK is up first. This one to Harmon. Is A.J. Brown still a start over, say, Allen, Washington, or Shaheed, Gadsden, or Tez Johnson? What do you think, Harmon?
Yeah, I know that it's been really bad very recently for A.J. Brown. Obviously last week, Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. I actually think he's really well set up in this particular matchup against the Lions defense that plays a lot of man coverage. He's still impactful against man coverage. So, yeah, I would start him over all those options there.
All right, Joel, this is your first time running this. 25 seconds on the clock. Standard scoring. Since Laporta went down, I'm having to choose between Otten and Buffalo or Loveland and Minnesota. Worth noting my opponent is starting Caleb Williams. Hashtag make your pick. Joel, what do you think?
This is an interesting one. There's two factors here, I would say. If it was a PPR league, I would maybe say Auden. But with one, having Caleb Williams on the opposite side, and two, being standard scoring, Auden hasn't scored in 15 games in terms of a touchdown. They don't use him too much down the red zone compared to those receivers. So Loveland's that big play guy, touchdown upside guy.
Look at that. Well done by you. All right, let's get the next question in here. Boone, you're getting this one. Flex, Z Flowers, Tucker, Watson, Johnson. What do you think?
Even with the weather concerns in that game, this one's easy. I'm going with Zay Flowers because it's kind of like the Wan'Dale Robinson thing. He can catch a lot of short passes. He's shifty. He can make plays after the catch with it. So I'm going with him. We have Rashad Bateman out in that game. They got to throw to him in this one.
All right, we've got time to get one more in real quick here. Let's get that one in. The next one from Brandon, who says, pick one, flex PPR, Sean Tucker, Trey Tucker, Rashad White. What do you think, Harmon?
I really want to buy into this narrative that Sean Tucker is going to take some work from Rashad White. I have Sean Tucker stashed in a few spots, but because of the PPR element, I think I'm still going to go with Rashad White in what should be a back and forth game. He can catch a lot of passes there, so I think you can scam it on that one.
All right, Joel did such a good job that the coaches have already moved him up. Like he's gone. The coaches are like, this guy way too talented for this. All right, he's going to be hosting a live AMA on Yahoo Fantasy on TikTok, which he does every single week, which is absolutely incredible. Joel, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for your help early. Good luck with the AMA. Feel free to help everybody win their leagues. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you soon.
Yeah, he did a great job. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we may just Wally pipped Chris. Coming up, Ricky Pearsall returns to the 49ers receiving core, but can you trust him for fantasy this week? We'll dig into that, and nobody can ever Wally pip Chris. We love him too much. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live. I'm Jason Fitz, hanging out with Matt Harmon, Justin Boone. Let's get you updated. We just had a muffed punt over in Madrid, so we do have a little bit of action in a game that is 13-13, much to the chagrin of fantasy owners everywhere. Both teams have decided to go for fourth and goal on fourth and short, fourth and goal situations, and Neither converted. So we're sitting here at 13-13. But Washington about to get the ball in good field position. So we'll see if maybe we can get points in this game as we continue to break down everything that happens in Madrid. I'm trying to put lipstick on a pig here, boys. So let's get to lock it in. Let's get to matchup-proof players. No matter what they're happening, no matter who they're facing, you know they're going to go in and absolutely crush it. Boone, who are you locking in this week?
This week, I'm going with Odunze at the Vikings. And one of the things to like about him is the fact that they're playing indoors in Minnesota, and there's so many other games where there's going to be weather concerns and a ton of wind. But you look back to that first game that he had against the Vikings in the opener, 6 for 37, not the biggest day, but he did score a touchdown in that one. He's had some down weeks, especially when they came off the bye, but last week got back on track, 6 for 86 and a touchdown. And the Vikings do look like a bad matchup on paper. I mean, that Brian Flores defense, they can be tricky, right? And so fantasy managers are looking at Odunze. They're seeing the red in the matchup next to his name. You might be questioning it. But overall, Minnesota allowing the 7th fewest fantasy points to wideouts. However, they're not a shutdown unit by any means. We're talking 4 for 75 to Zay Flowers last week, 9 for 97 to Amon-Ra St. Brown in week 9, 4 for 61 to Jamison Williams in week 9, 6 for 88 and a touchdown to Ladd McConkey. I could keep going here. The game against the Eagles, both Eagles wideouts got home in that one, found the end zone, both went over 100 yards. So wideouts can definitely have big days against this defense, even though on paper it seems like a bad matchup. I think you want to play Odunze here as a wide receiver too for fantasy.
Love that call by you. Matt, what do you got as matchup proof? You're locking him in.
Yeah, I'll stick along that same thought line of Boone there that, you know, you got to split these wide receiver points against sort of matchups based on where these wide receivers line up and who they are. So for me, I think Rashee Rice is a guy you can lock into your lineups every single week, but even this week going against a Broncos defense that is very good. That's second in terms of schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to wide receivers from our friends over at 4for4. But you got to remember, Rashee Rice is like not a normal wide receiver. You know, he's obviously a wide receiver. He plays a lot in the slot. He's got that slot-based role. But even still, they get him in the backfield. They throw him these quick hitters. He's just not one of these guys that's going to line up outside on the line of scrimmage, even be a true flanker in some of these sets. He is just peppered with those targets underneath and is that run after catch player. So he's not the normal wide receiver who gets that man coverage look on the outside that Denver has really thrived defending there. So to me, I think he's, even in a tough matchup, somebody that you can lock in every single week.
All right, from locking them in to facing them off, let's get next to Fantasy Faceoff. This is where we take a look at a player returning from injury. In this particular week, we're going to compare it to some other players. So Ricky Pearsall, returning from injury this week. So I'm going to ask you the face-off question. We'll start here. Harmon, Pearsall versus Michael Wilson. What do you think?
I do like Michael Wilson this week, but I think that Ricky Pearsall is still somebody I'm comfortable starting over him. Again, it's close. I do think Wilson is in a nice spot here, but you know, Kyle Shanahan said in an interview heading into this week that Ricky Pearsall, he believed, was playing like a true number one receiver in this league, and I would agree with Kyle Shanahan. He was third in the NFL in receiving yards before he got that injury. That was obviously a small sample, of course, but I think he's just played so well in isolation this year, even dating back to the end of last year. I think he's going to come in here and get a lot of high leverage looks down the field.
Boone, you agree?
I do agree with that one. Yeah, I really like Pearsall this week. Like I said earlier, I think you want to get him and put him right back in your lineup here as a wide receiver 3. Michael Wilson has had some good games. Like since Jacoby Brissett took over, the production is definitely ramped up for him here. And now he is going to step up into the number 1 spot, though. I mean, Trey McBride is actually the number 1 receiver on that team, let's face it. But still, Wilson's going to get more opportunity this week. So I think he's going to have a fine contest. I think you'd be okay starting him as well. But Pearsall has the bigger upside, the big playability. I'm really excited for him to be back.
All right, well, Boone, you're riding the hot hand. We'll keep the ball with you here. You go first on this one. Pearsall versus Tetero and McMillan. What do you think?
Oh, this is probably the toughest one. I can't wait to hear what Harmon says here because we talked about McMillan this week on the Fantasy Forecast. And as much as you like the talent, you look at his environment, you look at the situation, you look at the way that Bryce Young is playing at the moment, and you just question, like, when are the ceiling games going to come? He had one big game when he faced the Cowboys, which was the easiest possible matchup. But other than that, he really hasn't had big games. He's not finding the end zone. This passing attack just never really seems to be in a rhythm. And yet McMillan, I feel like, has more guaranteed volume than Pearsall this week. So we're kind of splitting hairs. If you're looking for like that huge day, that week-winning performance, I think you go with Ricky Pearsall. But I have McMillan higher just because on paper, projection-wise, I think he has the better guaranteed volume in this game.
Harmon, you agree?
Yeah, I think that's actually really good analysis by Boone. I can't disagree with, if you're looking for that ceiling game, I think you go with Pearsall, but if you're just looking for the safer, steady, guaranteed volume, I do think Tetero McMillan is the play here. The 49ers have actually been pretty, I know George Kittle took a 0 in his first game back, but they've actually been pretty intentional about, let's hold guys back until they're fully healthy, which, I mean, because they've been so snake bitten by injuries, that I think that's probably a good idea. So I don't think we'll see Ricky Pearsall on like a snap count or anything in this game, but we just know he's sharing with Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, whereas Tetero McMillan is the number one there. And I think they want to spread things out, but he should still come away from this game with 8 to 10 targets. So I think McMillan is the safer play this week.
All right, what about Ricky Pearsall versus Cortland Sutton? What do you say, Harmon?
Yeah, shout out to producer Dan Harris. Did a great job with these collection of names here. These are all guys I have right in a fourth spot of the rankings here. I will go with Ricky Pearsall over Cortland Sutton, though. Sutton has been out targeted 41 to 29 targets for Sutton, 41 to Troy Franklin over the last 5 weeks. And I don't think that's because Troy Franklin has passed up Sutton as the better player or anything like that, but Sutton plays as the X receiver in this offense, so he never moves around. He's outside on the line of scrimmage, and that player is always susceptible to chaos and poor play behind the center at quarterback, because that guy's got to get him the ball in high leverage looks, the most high degree of difficulty routes that you're running. And we can all agree with our eyeballs that Bo Nix has played under a lot of chaos of late. So I think Sutton's a guy that I need to see it from both him and Bo Nix before I'm putting him back in the lineups at this point.
Yeah, what do you think, Boone?
So the only thing I will say different to that, and I totally agree, I would play Pearsall for all the same reasons we've talked about. The only thing that I keep coming back to with Sutton, and touchdowns can be volatile, but 4 straight games against the Chiefs, he has found the end zone. So I wonder if we see him maybe get back on track in this game. I think it's going to happen eventually. Like, he's had the down weeks. Franklin's come on. They have other guys in the offense. Marvin Mims Jr. back this week. But at some point, Sutton is going to have a decent outing here, a pretty good day for fantasy. But I would still go with Pearsall for all the reasons that we said.
All right, so we got a question in the YouTube chat from Philly Cheesin 141. Says PPR flex spot, Parker Washington, Ricky Pearsall, Sean Tucker. Thanks. What do you think, Harmon?
This is one where I'm really curious what Boone would do between Parker Washington and Ricky Pearsall, because he is right in that same cluster of guys here. I actually do have Parker Washington ranked a little bit higher than Pearsall this week. Again, I know what his role is going to be. I know he's going to be on the field. I love Pearsall's game, but I think Parker Washington has played really well of late, and he's a player who's going to play in the slot a lot more. He's going to move around, so there should be some quick hitters. It's not a great matchup, but I think I'd give Parker Washington a slight edge over Pearsall first game back from the injury, but I'm curious what Boone would do.
I'm going with Pearsall again here, and it's close. Like we said, all these guys have been within like 6 or 7 picks in my rankings, so we are kind of flipping a coin a bit on some of these guys. But Parker Washington's game last week, it wasn't huge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he scored a touchdown on special teams to kind of boost his numbers, right? So it was an okay day. He came through for fantasy. But I wonder, just as time goes on here, Jacoby Myers getting a little more comfortable out there. Are we going to see his numbers come down a bit? Is he going to continue to have like a voluminous role like he did for a couple weeks there? Or are we going to see him kind of go back to being the Parker Washington that we've known in the past, where he could still be a flex play at times, especially with some of the injuries that they have? But I think even in a limited usage last week, like Jacoby Myers looked pretty good in that game. He made some plays. I think we're going to see him come on over time. So that just caused me to bump the projection down a little bit for Parker Washington this week.
All right, gentlemen, let's help some people out. It's time for Make Your Pick. We'll go back and forth with the guys, and we'll figure out how we can help some of these questions get through. And we'll start with the first question coming to Harmon. This one comes from Coach Hoff. Coach Hoff says, Cook and Genty at running back, Collins and Jefferson at wide receiver, flex, ETN, Odunze, Franklin, or Marks. Hashtag make your pick. What do you think?
These are some pretty good options here. I am going to push aside Franklin and Marks, though. It's between Odunze and Travis Etienne to me. I think I'm going to give a slight... God, I hate to pick against Odunze. I love Odunze, but I think I'm going to give the edge to Travis Etienne here. The Jaguars' run game has been a little hit or miss as of late, and obviously the Chargers' defense is good, but you can get them on some of these perimeter outbreaking runs. And at the start of the season, the Jaguars and Travis Etienne were really hitting on those outside zone runs, so I think they might try to get back to it in a spot where you can do it here against the Chargers.
That Jags offense, I mean, that Jags team right now looks broken compared to what they were. The next one, Lauren says, start with Jacobs, Swift, Henry, or Williams. Flex one of the 3 running backs or Quentin Johnson, half PPR. A lot of information for you, Boone. What do you got there?
Man, that is a really tough choice between the running backs. I'm not going with QJ here. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. And I know that the matchup's really tough against the Browns, but in past years, he has got home against them. And they're going to have to run the ball in this contest. They're favored, but with the weather conditions there, I don't know they're going to be able to be chucking the ball downfield that much. So I think this is going to be a decent game from Henry. Not 150 yards or anything like that, but I think he could have, 80 yards and a touchdown, kind of a classic Derrick Henry game. And that's enough in these matchups to give him the win here.
All right, the next question comes in from Lenny. Lenny asks, pick 2, D. Ricardo, Shakir, or Tez Johnson in full point PPR. Make your pick. What do you think, Harmon?
Yeah, I think it's Khalil Shakir in this spot. I do like Tez Johnson as well. I'm trying to not get involved in that Arizona Cardinals backfield, but no Keon Coleman, of course, as we talked about at the top. That doesn't really impact Shakir's role. He's very insulated as that slot-based option, and I expect him to get a ton of volume in this one. 46% of his targets have come at or behind the line of scrimmage, so for a PPR moment, you can certainly do worse there.
Oh, that's an alarming stat when you say it out loud. Let's get one more in from Jeff. Jeff, yeah, it's just staggering. Need a tight end and wide receiver in PPR. Pitts, Fannin, Worthy, or Franklin. What do you think, Boone?
We're talking PPR. So for the receivers, to me, that means we're going with Troy Franklin because I think he is going to get more work. I think he's going to get more targets. Worthy has not been a very good fantasy play this year at all, especially since Rashee Rice has come back. So we're going to go Franklin there. If we have to pick between the 2 tight ends, I'm going with Kyle Pitts. And I know he's had some easy matchups recently, and he hasn't really come through with that big day yet. But I think against the Panthers, he definitely can. This is an easier matchup. And he's getting enough volume. We just need him to find the end zone. But that's always kind of been one of the problems with him. And Fannin, again, going back to that Ravens game, I think weather's going to be a concern there. And he's getting a lot of volume, but not the best efficiency with Dylan Gabriel under center. I also think there's a chance we could see Dylan Gabriel just get pulled in this game, and we could see some Shadur Sanders, or we could see this offense potentially go in a different direction because, again, going back to what I said earlier in the show, the Ravens defense is improving. They're getting healthier, and we're starting to see that team have their teeth back and kind of look maybe like we thought they would before the season.
Speaking of improved defense, I will just quickly update everybody. The Miami Dolphins had 4th and goal from the 1-yard line with 1:44 to go. They had 3rd goal from the 1-yard line. They got nothing. 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. Ollie Gordon stopped for what looks like a 2-yard loss in a 13-13 game. So now we get to see. I just don't think either team wants to score. Both teams are like,
no.
We just want to get close to the end zone.
They want to extend their international trip. They want to stay there as long as possible.
They want to rack up more fantasy points. That's what they want to do.
100%. There's about
Touchdowns
a minute and 40 left in this regulation in this tie game, though. So who knows? Mariota might just take the Commanders down the field 96 yards for the game winner. We'll see. This game, not spectacular. Lions-Eagles will be spectacular. After everything we've heard all week about A.J. Brown, what's his outlook on Sunday night going to be? We'll talk about one of the biggest games of the week coming up next. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live. He's Matt Harmon. He's Justin Boone. I'm Jason Fitz. Here all the way up until 1 o'clock. You can still get your questions in. Love the comments coming in on the YouTube chat. We appreciate you guys being a part of what this show is every single week. We're honored to get to do this and talk to you about fantasy football. We'll keep you updated on the tie game that we have in Madrid, I promise. If there's anything riveting that happens, you'll know. In the meantime, let's get to a game that actually will be interesting to everybody. Lions at Eagles. That's the Sunday night game. Eagles favored by 2.5. You see the kickoff at 8:20 p.m. Going to be chilly little outdoor action here. So, Matt Harmon, what do you have your eyes on in this matchup?
Bring it in close here, people. I know it's been bad. I know it's not been great lately, especially last week. But I think you can play A.J. Brown with some degree of confidence in this matchup. Couple reasons why. Ooh. Number one, people forget that before the bye, he actually had 2 good games before he was also injured with a hamstring injury at the game before the bye. But Giants, solid performance. Vikings, monster performance. Then he gets banged up, misses a contest, the other game against the Giants. Then he goes on bye. So let's not pretend that he's just been doing absolutely nothing of late. He is actually over the since week 5, he's been a very usable fantasy receiver, except for this one game, the most recent game that I think people are overreacting to. And I'm telling you this as the guy who has said pretty much throughout the course of the season that Devontae Smith has surpassed him as the number 1 on this team. And I think that is true. I think that is, at this point, settled. Devontae Smith has been better. He's been really good. Just in his own right, he's been an improving player on a year-to-year basis the last 3 seasons. He's in the prime of his career. I think A.J. Brown has taken a step back as an individual player, but there's a difference between taking a step back and he can't do anything anymore. I think we still know that A.J. Brown can do one thing, and that's win against man coverage. Even when he doesn't get separation like he used to, he can still post guys up. He can still win in tight coverage. He averages 3.98 yards per route run against man coverage, even in this frustrating season, which is 3rd best among wide receivers. And he faces a Lions defense that plays man coverage at the 2nd highest rate in the NFL, according to Fantasy Points data. So I think this is a spot to chase that ceiling with A.J. Brown.
Look, you and I are we're synchronicity here. Thunder of the gods. I don't know. I feel like we're Thunder buddies because you're talking about that man defense that the Lions like to play, which is part of the reason that I think there's opportunity, and there has been opportunity over the last month for mobile quarterbacks to pick up some extra stuff, right? We've seen 2 rushing touchdowns by mobile quarterbacks in the last month against this Lions defense. It's why I think Jalen Hurts has an opportunity, not just with the tush push, but to pick up some yards with his legs. He's not afraid to use them when he has to. And the 2 times in the last month that they've truly faced mobile quarterbacks and aren't afraid to use their legs consistently, in Mahomes and in Jaden Daniels, they were both able to have some success. J.J. McCarthy got a rushing touchdown against this defense. I think there's the opportunity for Jalen Hurts to steal some points for fantasy lovers with his feet, not just with his arms. And part of it is that man defense backs to the quarterback. Quarterback has the opportunity to run the football. So I actually like Jalen Hurts to have kind of a sneaky good game in this, not just from throwing the football, but from the actual aspect of running it too. By the way, the Dolphins survived. Washington drove down, got into field goal range, and missed the field goal. So we are still at 13-13 after a 56-yard field goal that just wasn't even that close. So there we go. Still got football. Still got football going on. Boone, give me a storyline that you like in the Lions-Eagles, an actually good football game.
Well, you guys talked about the Eagles, so let me talk about the Lions. And I'm going to try to do a weird thing where I'm going to try to calm people down a little bit and preach some caution about this week, while at the same time getting you excited for the rest of the season for this Lions offense. Because this week, it is not a spot to play them. And I know they had success with Dan Campbell calling plays last week. They're going up against the Commanders. That was an easy matchup, even though they were on the road. This week, they're outside. They're outside against a tough defense. They're on the road. I don't think this is the spot where you want to play this offense. We know the splits that Jared Goff has when he's in the dome or when he has to play outside. And when you add to that this Eagles defense, it's only getting better, right? They're top 10 in terms of fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. But they're getting even more dangerous because they've added Jalen Phillips at the deadline here. This defense is getting healthier as well. So I would be worried about this matchup for Goff. I have him all the way down as a low-end QB2, not somebody I'd even want to stream this week. I think you could do a lot better. There were a bunch of names on the waiver wire this week that you could have gone and picked up and played. And yet, I think you want to go out and try to get players on this team for the stretch run, because after this game, their final 6 games of the fantasy season, if we include the fantasy playoffs, which I know not everybody's going to make it to the fantasy playoffs, but if we look at all the 6 games left in the fantasy season, including the fantasy playoffs, they are all indoors. 4 of them are going to be at home for the Lions. That is exactly the kind of spot where you want to play all of these guys. And we have Sam Laporta going on IR. So even somebody like Jameson Williams, this bumps up his potential target volume, right? Because before the season, we were worried, how are we going to get all these guys enough volume in order for all of them to produce for fantasy? Well, we just took a very big piece off the board for the next 4 weeks here. So I'd be trying to go and make moves to get pieces of this offense, even though this week, I think you want to temper your expectations in this matchup.
Fantasy football players, rejoice. We're getting overtime in Madrid. 13-13, we're headed to overtime. A reminder to everybody that hasn't paid attention to overtime this year in the NFL, no matter what, both teams are guaranteed a possession. So there's still a chance that there could be 2 touchdowns scored in this game. Look at me, a beacon of light in a dark, dark world. Points are still out. There's a chance. Let's get to primetime picks. This, you know the drill. This is where we go through 3 games. We stake draft. We're picking, flex players throughout the course of this. And I don't want to point this out, but I guess I have to. I just got to let the world know. Look at that point total last week. Oh, second place solely belongs to one me. Y'all got your butts kicked again by a man that wore an inflatable zebra suit. I just want to remind you that. So here's where
you really threw us off the scent. The zebra suit really threw us off the scent, I think. We weren't looking at you like a serious contender at that point, and now you snuck up on us here. And yeah, that point total is getting awfully close there, Fitz. I am a little bit worried now.
Chris Allen still is playing the game, I think. And to be fair, Chris made his picks this week. So knowing that Chris was going to be out this week, we still allowed him the grace and opportunity to pick throughout the portion of it. I, like Roger Goodell, will read his pick from the podium, but it will be Chris's pick. So our games this week, Seattle versus the Rams, because it's a great game and we wanted it. Detroit versus Philly, because it's the Sunday night game and we have to take it. And then the Dallas Cowboys taking on my beloved Raiders. That's our 3rd game. So Chris comes up to the podium first, and with the first pick in this week's draft, Chris Allen selects CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Dallas Cowboys. So CD is the first pick off the board with very little explanation needed. That means, Harmon, you're up. What do you got?
Did you notice when we broke down the Seahawks-Rams game earlier, none of us talked about the Seahawks offense because there's not that many interesting ways to say they're just going to get the ball to JSN a million times, and I'm hoping they're going to get him the ball a million times because he is my first pick in this contest.
That's such a good pick by you, and I don't know what else I trust from the Seahawks side of this. And weirdly, like I as I've said throughout the course of the show, to be very consistent, I think both defenses are going to be disruptive in this game. So I think it could be an actually much lower scoring game than we think. I'm looking at Devontae wondering how healthy he's actually going to be with the oblique injury. So I'm running up to the board with Puka because I don't want to get stuck in this game with somebody that I don't think can be a huge part of it. I'm concerned about what Harmon pointed out earlier, the lack of usage in 13 personnel. But I think Puka is somebody I can trust in this matchup. Now I defer it to Boone.
We've had a couple weeks in a row where I'm just hoping you make the wrong pick and let a guy slide to me. And fortunately for you, you have not made the wrong pick, and I haven't gotten those guys sliding to me. But at least this week, we have a bunch of talent. We got some good games. We've had a couple of weeks where when it gets to my first pick, it's tough sledding because there's not that much left. This week, there's tons of names still out there. I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs first. I don't love the matchup at all, but I still think he's Jahmyr Gibbs, and we know at any moment he could break one. He could have a 2-touchdown day, that sort of thing. So we'll go with him. And then Javonte Williams in that matchup going up against your Raiders. I think the Cowboys are going to roll in that game, and I think he's going to have a ton of positive game script. So I'm going with him. I think he's going to have a big game. A little quieter recently for him after that huge start. I think he gets back with a huge one here.
When I selected Puka, I thought my next pick would be Javonte because I did not think that he would be your pick, honestly. So I will run up to the board feeling good, honestly, about taking George Pickens right here. And I would love to wait to take somebody, but the fact is Pickens is going to eat against the Raiders secondary that just isn't very good. And the pass rush has been wildly inconsistent. So, you know, the only way that the Raiders even slow down this offense on Monday night is if Max Crosby has a Hall of Fame caliber game and Adam Butler, the defensive tackle, has to come up big. That's asking a lot. I think Pickens is going to eat in this game. So I'll take Pickens with my pick, which means we're back to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'll go with Amon-Ra St. Brown here. Don't need to take anybody from the Cowboys-Raiders games because you guys have all taken those players. And ultimately, I think St. Brown gets a pretty nice bump with Sam Laporta now on IR, and he's a target hog anyways. You want to attack this Eagles defense on the interior, not go against Quinyon Mitchell on the outside.
Which is one
For
of
the
the
record, we will say that when we did this draft, we did it via text. And I don't know if everyone saw, but I certainly saw that Harmon made a pick that was not Amon-Ra St. Brown and then very quickly deleted that text. And
How dare you? How dare you?
How
dare you?
That
I was
is-
going to
that
say
is-
something in the moment, but I was like, no, I'm going to save it for the show. But
iPhone gives you the
It counts.
option to unsend a text. There was not another pick made afterwards. So yeah, half thinking about it, I decided to do something that makes a little bit more sense, which means I'll definitely lose this week. No question about it.
I don't know. Like when I saw the Amon-Ra pick, immediately made me think, did I play this entire week wrong? That Harmon does that to me though. Like because Harmon is so just
then I
flat
lose,
out. Like I hate to
so.
be nice to you, but like since Harmon is so good at this in general, when he picks somebody right after me that I feel like I should have picked, the number of times I'm like, son of a biscuit. All right, I will make Chris's around. He's got
Butter
2 straight
me up,
picks here
pal.
around the turn. I'm just being like, hey, look, there's a lot of respect there. Devontae Adams is Chris's first pick on the late game. So he takes Devontae Adams first, and then he comes around the turn and he takes Devonta Smith. So we have 2 straight receivers there, Adams and then Smith. All of these things make sense. And when you look at Chris's lineup of CeeDee Lambs, Adams, and Smith, all of a sudden I feel very, very, very afraid. That is just a beast of a group that he has there. Harmon, that means you're back, though. What do you got for us?
Here is where I will take Brock Bowers, the person I was originally going to take in the second round before realizing I didn't have to do that. I could just wait for him here, and Boone threw me under the bus. Deservedly so. Maybe a questionable move by me to unsend that text, but regardless, I would have been happy with somebody from that Eagles-Lions game here. But I like getting Brock Bowers in this spot, and hopefully your boys Chip Kelly and Geno Smith Fitz will remember that this guy exists this week.
I have thoughts about this that you will hear later in this show. That puts me back up. And look, I'm going to just basically copy and paste something that Boone just said. I don't like this matchup at all, but at some point when I'm sitting where I'm sitting, it's just dumb not to take Saquon. This is just, to me, this is the simple, like, who can I trust that if this game gets ugly in the cold and it's just a slobber knocker back and forth, who can I trust? And this comes down to, did I want Saquon or did I want AJ? And that was a really tough decision for me, but I just feel like I have a better chance of getting a sloppy touchdown I don't deserve with Saquon, even though this has not been the fantasy season I think a lot of us hoped it would be for Saquon, and this isn't a great matchup. I like my opportunity to pick up scraps better at this pick. So that means, Boone, you are cleaning it up at the end. What do you got for us?
Kyren Williams, and we just got to hope that there's some positive game script, that he finds the end zone once or twice and can come through that way, because again, not a great matchup for him going up against the Seahawks. But if you look at this board overall, is this the most loaded that all the teams have been in any week that we've done this year? Because wow, like, to get Saquon and Kyren Williams and Brock Bowers with the last 3 picks here, it's pretty good this week.
Yeah, you are 100% right. The number of times I've looked at this board and thought, what in the hell are we going to do? And this week, it feels like everybody could score. By the way, we are now in the sudden death situation because looks like the Dolphins got an interception. They've got the ball in the red zone, in the red zone already. So next score wins at this point now that the Commanders have touched the football and the interception has happened. So this is going to be an opportunity for Miami to try and drive down and actually just win this football. Next score wins in that one. Let's get to some hurry-up offense. We're going to bring up a bunch of questions from the YouTube chat because you guys have been super active today. We see it. We love it. We'll get this first one in from Newbie. And Newbie says, Dan Campbell officially calling plays ROS. J-Mo or Judkins in the flex today? What do you think? We'll start with Harmon. I don't hear Harmon. Do we hear Harmon?
Are you on mute there, Harmon?
I think Harmon muted himself.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I muted myself to sniffle earlier. So, Jameson Williams over Quinshon Judkins. I like what Boone said earlier about Judkins, some of the risk there. And, I'll extend my time here. I think Dan Campbell calling plays here for Jameson Williams is pretty huge. So, I'll go JMO today.
That play was failed from the time we broke the huddle. I mean, we had illegal procedure with the muting, then we had delay a game, like all of it. The announcers right now are calling us all into question. They're asking whether or not we've had a committed enough week of practice.
Bad prep.
Let's get. I mean, this is just like coach is going to have to answer for it afterwards. Hannah Smith with the question: do I start Romeo Doubs or Michael Wilson? Boone, save us. What do you think?
I'm still going Romeo Doubs, even though there's some concerns about the weather in that one. We always know that he can come through with the big day, that he can find the end zone. I think he's going to do that against the Giants. I think this is a decent spot for him. And I know bad week last week, but that's because he got banged up in that game. Came back this week. He's practicing. He's good to go. I think he's fine to throw into your lineup here.
All right, the next question coming in comes from Dominic. And Dominic says, needs a flex, half PPR. Dobbs, Allen, Kenneth Walker, or Tez Johnson? Man, we've had a lot of Tez Johnson today. What do you think, Harmon?
I know. I'm going to talk about Tez Johnson in the next block, but I do think Dobbs is the right answer here. Just should get a little bit of a target bump overall. Kenneth Walker, I wish could be the answer, but we know how that experience has gone. He did get a little bit more opportunity closer to the goal line the last few weeks, but it hasn't come through. I will go with Romeo Dobbs there.
All right, let's get one more in here from Action Pack. Says half PPR, Judkins or White? Boone has them back-to-back, so Boone, what do you think?
Man, in half PPR, I'm going to go with Judkins because if they do keep the game close, we know he's going to get volume. With White, he's still the starter, but Sean Tucker's been working in the last couple of weeks here, and I could see this being a game where Sean Tucker gets a decent amount of work again in this one, and we could see this thing become maybe more of a 50-50 or 55-45 type of committee, where Judkins is the offense for the Browns, so I'll go with him, but yeah, that's a very difficult one.
Well, we didn't have a lot of offense in Madrid, but we do have a final score at this point. The game has gone final. The Miami Dolphins take down the Washington Commanders 16-13. You see there, Devon Achane with 165 total yards. Really did have a big game. There were just a couple of drives where he was stopped at about the 2-3 yard line, and Miami couldn't get it in from there. Debo, 7 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown in that one. Washington's abysmal season continues on, but Miami continues to at least give people a little bit of hope. Maybe we'll see. I feel a lot of people this week had some big opinions on Miami. We'll see what the rest of the season looks like. All right, coming up next, Monday Night Football gives us a matchup between the Cowboys and the Raiders. A lot of people screaming about some of the terrible offense we've seen for the Raiders. We'll tell you what you should expect in this game next. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Jason Fitz, Matt Harmon, Justin Boone getting you all the way up to kickoff. We will get more of your questions answered in just a minute, but we have a massive matchup for fantasy football fanatics on Monday night. That's right. We have the Cowboys at the Raiders. The Cowboys only favored by 3.5. Under on this one, 50. Keep an eye on that. This game Monday night in Allegiant Stadium. All right, Boone, what do you have your eyes on in this one?
Well, I don't really want to say this now because you took this guy in primetime picks, and I don't want to build up your team here, but I think there's a huge game coming for George Pickens in this contest, right? And even with CeeDee Lamb returning in week 7, Pickens basically hasn't missed a beat. The numbers might not be quite as good as they were in those weeks when Lamb was out, but 4 for 82, 7 for 78, 6 for 79. That's his last 3 games here. The only thing he's missing is touchdowns. I think he has an excellent chance to get into the red zone and get into the end zone on Monday night here. And the Cowboys have the 4th highest implied point total on the week. The Raiders are giving up the 6th most fantasy points to receivers. It's kind of all coming together, even though you probably don't want to hear that, Fitz, because your Raiders, I would just like to see them keep this game close so that the Cowboys have to keep throwing here. We don't want to see them, turn to Javonte and maybe even the backup running backs and let those guys handle the second half. We want this to be high scoring on both sides. I think it will be. And I think Pickens is going to have a huge contest here. So you start him as a high-end wide receiver too, who actually still has wide receiver 1 upside for fantasy.
Yeah, well, Pickens is going to get the chance to check out Allegiant, which might be telling because I have a sneaking suspicion he'll be playing home games there next year. How do you like that for bold predictions? Harmon, what do you got for me as something to look at in this game?
No shot, Dallas. Let's George Pickens get out of there, but we shall see Fitz on that one. But my little, yeah, that's true. Hey, they got some money to throw around after not paying a certain defensive player. My thing here is, are the Raiders serious with this wide receiver usage right now? And I mean, come on. Last week, we see them play Tyler Lockett for 58.6% of the routes. They made Dante Thornton their 4th-round rookie wide receiver. Look, no disrespect, but I just don't know what they're trying to prove with this Dante Thornton thing. He was a raw prospect coming into the league. He was not ready to be a full-time player. They tried to force it at the beginning of the year, didn't work out. They make him a healthy scratch, then they trade Jacoby Myers, and then they bring him back to run a route on 60% of the dropbacks, and it once again did not go well. To me, I think Jack Besh could step in and be a useful slot receiver for them, but it's just this weird rotation at this second receiver spot that I don't really get. But the one guy that did play every single route in terms of run routes on the dropbacks, it was Trey Tucker. He was on the field for every single snap. He's been a guy who has been on the field for 93% of the snaps on the season, most among any Raiders offensive skill position player. And I kind of think he's a nice sleeper in this matchup. He's the one constant in this receiver room. He is a very boom bust player. He's very big play dependent, but I know the Cowboys are getting some defensive players back. I still think it's a vulnerable secondary where we could see Trey Tucker rip down the field for a big play. So if you're desperate at wide receiver, Tucker is still pretty widely available. You could pick him up and maybe start him this week.
That is a little bit of positive. I'm going to just break down the negative on one of the biggest fantasy storylines for the Raiders this year. Brock Bowers is going to have terrible usage numbers on Monday night to me. And this comes back to what everybody was screaming about last week when people were saying, why did they not get the ball to Brock Bowers more? I would tell you this is where the most boring conversation in the world matters, offensive line. The Raiders during the course of that game lost not only their starting right guard, but also their starting left guard. Now, their starting right guard, Jackson Powers-Johnson, is out for the year. He's gone. So they're going to be starting a rookie. But what they did once they lost both interior offensive linemen is they went big personnel the rest of the game, and they kept big personnel in to help with the defensive line that was coming at him the entire time. Brock Bowers, unfortunately, can't run routes if every time he runs out of the backfield, he gets murdered. So if your expectation is Brock is going to have a get-right game, what you really need to keep an eye on is the interior of the Raiders' offensive line. They're going to be starting a rookie at the right guard position. There was the 3rd-round draft pick that nobody has seen a single snap from. So I don't think if your hope is that you're going to get all sorts of opportunities to see targets for Brock, I don't think it's going to happen because Chip Kelly is going to be calling an offense that has 2 tight ends on the field all the time, and those tight ends are going to be helping since Ashton Genty hasn't done a great job of it, of trying to keep Geno Smith from getting murdered. So unfortunately for all of us that thought Brock would put up huge targets, I don't see the targets coming because the offensive line isn't stable enough in front of him. So, gentlemen, let's get to some make-believe. Santa Claus is almost coming to town. We all believe in Santa. So let's figure out make-believe or believe. Harmon, Tez Johnson, what do you think? Make-believe, where are you?
Yeah, I'm going to say make-believe on the idea that Tez Johnson's going to completely go away once Chris Godwin gets back. We know Godwin got back to practice this week. He's not going to play in this game. But I still think there's going to be a role for Tez when Godwin is out there. For one, we just don't really know who Godwin is at this point this season. There's been so many injuries. But I do know that I've seen Tez Johnson play some good football for this team. He was a 7th-round pick that I had as more of kind of a 4th-round player. Wasn't crazy high on him or anything, but I thought 7th round was a little aggressive. We all know why he went that late, because he weighs, as he admitted, 142 pounds. But the Bucs have done a good job to minimize that size and actually maximize what he does well, which is he runs out-breaking routes really well. So they get him in motion, they get him in the slot, they get him off the line of scrimmage, and I really like the role that they've had for him. And he is more of an outside receiver than my guy Sterling Shepard. I think Shepard is the guy who loses playing time when Godwin gets back, not the rookie Tez Johnson. So I'm not saying he's going to be a reliable fantasy play every single week, but he's certainly somebody during the bye weeks that can help you as a flex wide receiver 3 option.
It's too South Pole elf for me. I need happy joy. Boone, give me something that you're positive, like you believe in. Give me something magical. Spring some Christmas pixie dust on this.
I really believe in RJ Harvey as the Broncos starter, and I know some people are concerned that it might turn into some sort of committee, but I think this guy, they drafted him for a reason, and now he is going to step into this role. It's unfortunate the way that it's going down. Another injury here for J.K. Dobbins, a season ender for him. We're not going to see him back now. And Harvey's going to have this opportunity to blow up. And one of the biggest things when rookies come into the league, you want to see, do they belong? Do they look like they need more time? Do they look like they fit on an NFL field? And man, this guy sure has looked like he fits on an NFL field in his limited usage here, right? Like the playmaking ability, it's been on display. He's top 50 scrimmage yards in 4 different contests already this year, despite playing that backup role and that change of pace role behind Dobbins, who's been the starter. He's also become a regular in the end zone, 5 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks for Harvey. So he has that in his bag as well. I'm really excited to see what he can do. And I know this week, the matchup with the Chiefs looks a little scary on paper, but James Cook just last week, 125 scrimmage yards against them. So it's not like you can't run the ball against this team. I want to see Harvey go out there. I think he's going to be able to break some big runs. He's that kind of player. This is an exciting guy that we're now adding to the mix as a fantasy RB2, who certainly has some upside to be more down the stretch.
We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't say things they could clip off that make us look idiotic. So, gentlemen, bold prediction time. Give us something big. Give us something hot. Give us something fire, Harmon. Give it to me quick. What's a bold prediction for you?
Trey McBride has a career day and catches 13 plus passes, which would be a career high for him. His highest previous total is 12 against Seattle last season. I think he gets a bunch in this game because Jacoby Brissett has a 55% success rate when he is blitzed, which is the highest among qualified quarterbacks according to Next Gen Stats. And he targets Trey McBride on 38% of the routes when he is blitzed. So no Marvin Harrison, a lot of Trey McBride in this game.
Oh, I love that. Boone, give me a bold prediction.
I think the only way that McBride doesn't do that is if the 49ers do like the Megatron defense, put 3 guys on him. That's probably the only way they're going to stop him this week. My bold prediction, Jaylen Warren is a top 3 fantasy running back, and he's not normally a guy that we talk about as like a high-end RB1, but this is all about the matchup, right? He's going against the Bengals. They are the worst defense when it comes to stopping fantasy running backs. We're talking about giving up RB3, RB10, RB4, RB9, RB13, RB4, RB12, RB16. Every running back that's gone against them has come through for fantasy here. The last time that Warren played them, 158 scrimmage yards on 21 touches. He just didn't find the end zone, and even without finding the end zone, he was still the RB10 on the week. So let's get him into the end zone this time around, and that'll put him right up into the top 3.
All right, we're going to get in the end zone now with some hurry-up offense. We get the questions in. We get 25 seconds on the clock, and we get some answers for you. Some of these coming in from the YouTube chat. We'll start with this one from Lil Biden. Larry says, need a flex wide receiver running back between Judkins, Rome, Zay, Kyron, or Swift. What say you, Harmon?
Oh, a lot of good options here. I think Kyron's a guy I'm going to go ahead and lock in between. So it's flex, wide receiver, and running back. So Kyron at running back. We'll go Rome and Zay for the next 2 options there.
Ooh, just before the whistle. Well done by you. The next one comes in from, Vinita Fada. I don't know. Sit Judkins in favor of one of Monangai, Jones, Taylor Jr. or Vidal? What do you think, Boone?
Okay, so are we thinking this is Aaron Jones, I'm assuming?
Yes, I would. I would think.
Yeah, bad
I'll
form,
guess.
bad
If it's
form.
Aaron
They can't do
Jones, I'm
this.
going Aaron Jones. If it's not Aaron Jones, I'm going Kamani Vidal. I think both those guys have better outlooks as like mid-range RB2s this week, where looking at Judkins is more of that low-end RB2.
Who's Taylor Jr.?
All right, this one I can actually.
I just
pronounce.
stayed away from that.
Josh Finstein. Josh Finstein says.
Tyron?
Yeah, we'll just keep. Quarterback with
Tracy
6-point
Jr.
touchdowns.
It was probably Tyron
Tracy Jr. Yeah, Tracy Jr. Definitely. Hey, look, we'll just read what's there. Rodgers, Love, Purdy, or Darnold. Quarterback 6-point touchdowns. What do you think, Harmon? I know who he's talking about here.
Ooh. 6 point. I think I'll go with Rodgers in a good matchup there. I don't know.
Ooh, you stalled on that one. I didn't think we were going to get that in.
Inspiring
let's get to
a lot of
questions.
confidence. I know.
Milos Blagojevich says, in my PPR league, I have Taylor on a bye, so need to fill running back and flex spot. My options are Montgomery, Tracy, or Dobbs. Please help. Boone, help him.
I think I'm just going to stay away from the running backs based on the matchups that they have this week, and I'm going to go with Romeo Dobbs again because I think he's going to bounce back. Great to see him healthy, and I think he can have a really good game against the Giants in that one.
I think it's Milos Blagojevich. I think that I'm going to go with that, Blagojevich. I just wanted to see if I could get it right. Next question comes in next week now is the question. Half PPR. Need to pick two between Pearsall, Johnston, Marks, and Harvey. Can't pick more than one of the running backs. Harmon, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go Harvey. I buy what Boone is selling. I think he's going to be the lead back there, even if it is some level of a committee. So he's the guy I would go at running back. And then between Pearsall and Quentin Johnson, I am going to give the edge to Ricky Pearsall there. We know Johnson is super volatile already. He's going to have his ups and downs. So I'd just rather risk that with a better player in Ricky Pearsall.
Still not sure what that profile picture is either. Tony asked the questions, Jacobs and Rico at running back, Javonte or Genti at flex, full PPR. What do you think, Boone?
I'm going with Javonte. I mean, both running backs in the same game. Who do we think is going to have the better game script? I think the Cowboys definitely have a better shot at that. Genti still playing behind that offensive line that I think could put him in bad situations. Great to see that they're throwing him the ball again because that's kind of been an up and down thing the last month or so. They need to get him the ball through the air. That's going to enable him to continue to be a solid fantasy play, but I'm going with Javonte.
It should be noted, the YouTube chat has spoken out. The YouTube chat has let us know specifically about the unsending of draft picks. All right. Jingorb says, yo, unsending in a draft. Raja No says, how dare, LOL. We also get a huge asterisk. I don't want to say that this is Astros level, but I don't know. Trash cans being banged, people wearing earpieces. Harmon's not taking his shirt off because he's got an electronic device on. I don't know what's happening. I just know it's still the chaos.
I will happily take my shirt off. Don't tempt me with a good time.
We're going to go full Bert Kreischer on this thing. All I know is that now, whatever happens this week, there's going to be questions. We'll answer them next week because we're back here every single Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern to help you get your lineup set. We're around all week, by the way. You can wake up with me, Yahoo Sports Daily, me and Caroline Fenton, every single weekday, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your Yahoo Sports, 9 to 11 a.m. And then catch Fantasy Football Forecast live on Yahoo Fantasy YouTube. Out there for you, doing great work. Also, read all of the work, as Harmon pointed out. We do read. So read everything that's out there at Yahoo Sports. The guys are doing an incredible job getting you caught up on everything you need to know. Good luck in your fantasy matchups. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of everybody that works their asses off to make this show happen, we appreciate you. Come back next week. Hang out with us again.